We have more political unrest happening this weekend, plenty more. Of course, happening in Portland as this is happening, and also in Chicago, too, of course. That's been going on throughout the day today as well. But apparently an Oregon judge has blocked the deployment of the National Guard into Portland under President Trump's orders. So President Trump answered that response by deploying the National Guard in California. And apparently that's, I don't know if you'd call it a loophole or not, but President Trump is doing that. He's sending 300 National Guard up to Portland, Oregon, because some Oregon judge blocked the Trump administration from being able to deploy the state's National Guard. So he's like, all right, fine, I'll send another state's National Guard. And as an even bigger troll to Gavin Newsome, I'll just yank his National Guard out and put them up in Portland. So I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, so here's the 300 California National Guard members, a story on that, who are being deployed up to Portland, probably tonight. That's at least what I'm assuming. So Gavin Newsom's all butthurt over it. He said he's going to sue Trump for sending California National Guard up to Oregon. And I've got a video here of the chaotic Chicago protest turned violent. But first, I want to look at this. So this came out on Drama Alert about 4 hours ago. A poor grandma gets blasted by the t-shirt cannon. Now, before I play this, there's a lot of back and forth, including Community Notes. Community Notes, they say that this is AI generated. And it says it's not real footage for Weber Valley Speedway, and that the man's leg disappears between the 9th and 10th second. And there's even people that are commenting on this saying that his leg disappeared. I've watched this video like 10 times. His leg does not disappear. It looks like his leg is gone. That's what they're suggesting. You can see his right leg here, but where's his left leg? Actually, if you look at it, his leg is tucked underneath. If you've ever sat on bleachers, you might be familiar with this posture because I did this all the time. If you look at the row up here, you'll see vertical wooden boards underneath the bench that you sit on. You can actually tuck your shoe, the lip of your shoe, up underneath that and kind of use yourself as like a makeshift rocking chair, so to speak. It's really hard to explain, but if you've sat on bleachers, which if you're an American, I'm sure you have. I think we've all sat on bleachers at some point in our lives. But you can actually tuck your shoes up underneath the bench, and you can actually hold your posture up better by doing so. And that's exactly what this guy's doing. He's actually holding his leg underneath. I mean, look, you can clearly see his leg going underneath the bench right there. So anyways, so let me go ahead and play this video and see if you see the same thing that I'm seeing.
Ready? Fire it! Here we go.
Lord have mercy.
Absolutely hilarious.
Get her up! Get her up! She's laughing!
All right, so I'll play it again so you can let the hilarity ensue. Could be AI, very well could be AI. I don't know why an elderly lady in her 80s, I would assume, would consent to having a t-shirt cannon blast her in the chest. You would think that would be like instant heart death at that point. But anyway, let me play it again.
Lord have mercy.
All right, so I'm gonna full screen it. See if you notice his leg. Let's see if you notice his leg. I swear, his leg is in plain view. It's there the whole time.
Ready?
So right here, look right down here. See how his leg? It's tucked underneath. See how it's under? Oh, and then he takes it out. Right there, his leg's underneath, and then he pulls his leg out. I'm not saying it's not AI.
Lord have mercy.
Matter of fact, if you look at his boot carefully, it looks like he's got a heel on his boot. And as the couple of seconds go by, it looks like the heel of his boot disappears, actually.
Lord have mercy.
But maybe not. Yeah,
Lord have mercy.
yeah, I'm not 100% convinced that this is real. I'm just saying that the argument that they were making that this is AI, I'm not saying it's holding water at all. His leg's underneath the bleacher. And the only reason that I'm pushing back on that is because that's almost always how I sit when I'm sitting on bleachers. I put both of my legs underneath the bench, and I wrap the tip of my shoes around the floorboard. I don't even know how you can explain that reasonably without sounding either ridiculous or maybe you understand exactly what I'm saying. I'm sure I'm not the only one on earth who sits at bleachers like that, because if you wrap the lip of your shoe underneath that floorboard like that, you can lean all the way back. You can lean yourself almost back like almost 90 degrees, and you can pull yourself right back up again without using your hands. You know, you kind of turn your body into like a rocking chair, so to speak. But whatever, I'm not going to waste any more time on that. So this is the video from New York Post. Chaotic Chicago protest turned violent. Give this a quick watch. It's about a minute. See how violent it really turns. I haven't seen it yet, so let's see what we got here.
Don't touch me.
Don't touch me. With the Mexican flag. I love Mexico so much that I fled Mexico into the United States, and then I fly the Mexican flag here because that totally makes sense.
Step back. Step back. I'm on a public road.
He's not doing anything.
Uh-oh.
You're saying that.
Dude!
No!
Uh-oh.
He's not doing anything.
Oh, he going to jail now.
He's not doing anything.
Once they go hands-on, they have got to take him to jail.
Anything.
They better not let him go.
He's not, I'm gonna stand right here. He's not doing it.
stand where
I'm
I
gonna
tell
stand
you to
right
stand.
here. I'm gonna
Or else
stand
you're
right
next.
here.
Yeah, you'll be next. Oh, what a fucking wuss. Is that the same dude? No, that's not the same guy, is it? Yeah, actually, I think it is. What a fucking loser. Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, it might have been the same guy. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, so they're just starting shit, trying to stand their ground, which I'm sure the stand your ground law does not apply to the state of Illinois at all, as it probably doesn't apply to any blue states whatsoever. But even still, even if it was a stand your ground state, that does not apply in that situation at all. Not at all. Not when you're being given a lawful order by whether if it's a state agent, a federal agent, even a local police officer. You got to obey their commands or else you're going to get your ass thrown in jail. So this is from Reuters. Gavin Newsom says he will sue the Trump administration for sending California National Guard to Oregon. So maybe I shouldn't start with this one. Maybe I should start with, let's see, Governor Newsom says Trump is sending 300 California National Guard members to Oregon after a judge blocked his Portland troop deployment plan. I want to say, yeah, maybe this one I should start with. Yeah, here, let me just start with this one because I don't want to start and work backwards. I want to start with the original story with regard to Trump deploying the Oregon National Guard up there. Hold on. Stephen Miller, Oregon judge okays organized terrorist attack. Yeah, here, let me play this out. This ought to be interesting. He is the border czar.
Why do you think...
Hold on. Wait a minute. Left violent rhetoric endangers everyone. Okay, so that's not directly related. This is Tom Homan. He's the border czar. So no, he's not speaking, I don't think, specifically about this. So I'll just go to the article. An Oregon judge blocking the deployment of the National Guard to Portland, Oregon represents not just judicial overreach against the authority of the president, but also material support of an organized terrorist attack, according to White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. I mean, he's kind of got a fair argument because they have been deemed as domestic terrorists, and by them, that would be Antifa. And there's clearly a lot of Antifa down in Portland in front of the ICE facility and just around the city in general. I mean, they're pretty easily identifiable. They wear all black. They cover their faces up. They wear sunglasses often. And they carry black umbrellas. Not 100% of them, but most of them carry around black umbrellas. Anyway, quote, legal insurrection, Miller wrote on X, denouncing U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut's temporary block on deploying the National Guard in Portland because of local leftist leaders' lawsuit against the Trump administration. Quote, the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not an Oregon judge. And yeah, I'm assuming that the National Guard would fall under the category of armed forces. You would think. Portland and Oregon law enforcement, at the direction of local leaders, have refused to aid ICE officers facing relentless terrorist assault and threats to life. There are more local law enforcement officers in Oregon than there are guns and badges in the FBI nationwide. Wow, for real? Quote, this is an organized terrorist attack on the federal government and its officers, and the deployment of troops is an absolute necessity to defend our personnel, our laws, our government, public order, and the republic itself. Immergut, appointed by President Donald Trump during his first term, well, that's kind of ironic, issued the order pending further arguments in the leftist obstructionist lawsuit. She claimed the anti-ICE activity didn't justify the use of federalized forces. Well, if the organization that's attacking the federal agency, if they have been designated by the federal government to be domestic terrorists, I think that would probably warrant the use of the armed forces, federalized forces. I don't know, but I'm no legal scholar. I'm no expert. I'm just some guy on YouTube. Anyway, quote, this country has a long-standing and foundational tradition of resistance to government overreach, especially in the form of military intrusion into civil affairs, Immergut wrote. Yeah, I mean, maybe, she might have a little bit of justification there, maybe a little bit government overreach. Although, yeah, and the reason why I'm kind of siding slightly over on her side on that is because, look, 100% of the people that are down there in front of the ICE facility, they're not all Antifa, not all of them. There's a lot of hippies down there. There's just a lot of your just card-carrying lefties that are down there. Your communist types and whatnot. Probably not entrenched into the Antifa organization necessarily. However, with Antifa being down there, I think that gives them the full authority to deploy the National Guard to at least take them out, at least get them arrested and thrown in jail, because they're operating as an organized domestic terrorist organization. Look, that's what the federal government deemed them as, and that's what's going on down there right now. Quote, this historical tradition boils down to a simple proposition. This is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law. The Trump administration late Saturday filed a notice of appeal to the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. State and city officials sued to stop the deployment last week, one day after the Trump administration announced that 200 Oregon National Guard troops would be federalized to protect federal buildings. Look, if they're being sent down there to protect federal buildings, how is that an overreach in the form of military intrusion into civil affairs? Look, protecting federal buildings, that's not a civil affair. That's not a state level affair. That's a federal government affair because it's a federal building on federal property. So if they want to deploy the federal government, if they want to deploy National Guard troops to protect federal buildings, I don't see how this judge could argue against that. I think really where it gets kind of hairy and a little gray area-ish is when the National Guard starts marching off of the federal property and starts marching up and down streets and starts grabbing people who are obstructing in one way or another. I don't know. Yeah, that's when things might get a little murky. So, let's see. Generally speaking, the president is allowed a great level of defense to federalized National Guard troops in situations where regular law enforcement forces can't execute the laws of the U.S., the judge admitted. And there could be, look, the judge admitted that, and they would have to, at least it would seem that they would have to concede that it's the mayor who essentially controls the Portland Police Department, and the mayor is telling the Portland Police Department to stand down and don't interfere with any of this leftist bullshit activity going on in front of these federal buildings. So what do you do when you've got the local elected officials telling the local police to not do anything? Stand down, just let them be chaotic and do whatever the fuck they want to do. So what would you have them do? Sounds to me like you probably should have some federal authorities deployed, since the locals aren't doing jack shit about it. That is where Miller's ex post comes in. The president is the ultimate judge of that, not an Oregon judge. President Trump exercised his lawful authority to protect federal assets and personnel in Portland following violent riots and attacks on law enforcement. We expect to be vindicated by a higher court, White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson wrote in a statement after the ruling. And Trump has deployed or threatened to deploy troops in several U.S. cities, particularly ones led by Democrats, including Los Angeles, Washington, Chicago, and Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, Washington, D.C. All right, got it. Speaking Tuesday to U.S. military leaders in Virginia, he proposed using cities as training grounds for the armed forces. On Saturday, before the Immergut ruling was released, roughly 400 people marched to the ICE facility in Portland. Federal agents responded with chemical crowd control munitions, including tear gas canisters and less lethal guns that sprayed pepper balls. At least 6 people were arrested as the protesters reached the ICE facility. Later in the evening, federal agents again emerged from the facility and deployed tear gas on a crowd of about 100 people. Trump sent federal officers to Portland over the objections of local and state leaders in 2020 during long-running riots following George Floyd. The administration sent hundreds of agents for the stated purpose of protecting the federal courthouse and other federal property from vandalism. I remember that. I played that on yesterday's video. I did a video last night where I played that. And with the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler, went down there to try to do a Q&A session. in front of a mob of well over 1,000 just angry ass mobsters or violent rioters, whatever you want to call them. That was absolutely hilarious. He got absolutely nowhere with that. So anyway, that was on Newsmax. And from the Associated Press, breaking: Governor Newsom says Trump is sending 300 California National Guard members to Oregon after a judge blocked his Portland troop deployment plan. So, of course, Governor Gavin Newsom's going to try like hell to try to prevent that from happening. Not sure if he's going to have the authority to do so or not. Not so sure. Plus, would this potentially give Trump any more constitutional authority since the government shut down, or does that not really have anything to do with military affairs or when it comes to law and order in the country itself? The government shutdown may just be irrelevant, but maybe not. Maybe it can mean everything. But the courts are they're still doing their thing, obviously. They're still operating. So from Sacramento, President Donald Trump is sending 300 California National Guard members to Oregon after a judge temporarily blocked his administration from deploying that state's guard to Portland. California governor said on Sunday. Newsom pledged Sunday to fight the move in court. I don't think it matters what Trump does. If he does anything with regard to the state of California, he's going to try to get sued over it. Gavin Newsom's going to try to sue him. I mean, even with Trump insisting that the Pacific Palisades fire, that the red tape be lifted, that they pass the permits at record pace, get it done within a week. Of course, they're not doing that. I think it's just because Trump suggested it. I think they're going out of their way to hold up people whose houses burned down during that incident from getting their permitting to get their houses rebuilt, because I don't think they've started breaking ground or rebuilding a single house down there. It was like 8,500 houses were burned down during that event, and they haven't rebuilt a single property yet, even though the permits, they should have been passed within a week. It's ridiculous that they're holding them up for years. And now the state of California, I know it's off the subject, but the state of California is trying to seize large amounts of the Pacific Palisades land. I'm assuming they're probably going to use or try to exercise eminent domain, and they want to build low-income housing. Fancy that. It's almost like all this shit was by design. Anyway, so reading on, there was no immediate official announcement from Washington that the California National Guard was being called up and sent to Oregon, just as was the case when Illinois governor made a similar announcement Saturday about troops in his state being activated. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said that 101 California National Guard members arrived in her state Saturday night by a plane, and more were on the way. Kotek said there has been no formal communication with the federal government about the deployment. Quote, "This action appears to be intentional to circumvent yesterday's ruling by a federal judge." Yeah, you think? I think that might be exactly what's happening here. Kotek said in a statement Sunday, "There is no need for military intervention in Oregon. There is no insurrection in Portland." Are you sure about that? Because there's an awful lot of people that are out there rioting, causing all kinds of trouble. And you know that the Portland mayor, he's not going to issue any ordinances, no curfews. He's not doing anything like that because, they want the chaos. They want this shit to happen. They want illegals to run rampant all over their neighborhoods and all over the city. So, of course, they're not going to do anything to help immigration and customs enforcement. They're trying anything and everything in their power to do the exact opposite. They're trying to flood the country with illegals, and they're getting super pissed off that this current administration is getting rid of what they consider to be potential voters. And that's why they're pushing back so hard. They don't want to even if they're criminals, they don't want to get rid of them. Even though a lot of them would certainly have felonies on their record, because pretty much everybody ICE is rounding up right now, they're already convicted criminals. And most, if not probably all of them, have already committed felonies inside the United States. So they're getting immediately deported back to their country of origin. It's just hilarious. It's like, why are you going to fight to try to keep them not only in the country, but you're going to try to protect them, even though, even if you gave them citizenship, they still don't have any right to vote as a Democrat because they're fucking felons. It makes no sense. Anyway, no threat to national security. Oregon is our home, not a military target. A Portland police spokesperson declined to comment. Well, of course, they're not going to comment. Let's see. A spokesperson for Kotek said Sunday he cannot verify the current location of the Guard members who arrived in Oregon on Saturday, directing questions to the Defense Department. Look, if the National Guard is being deployed to protect the federal buildings, I don't see how they can have any argument against them being deployed. because they're protecting federal assets. They're not marching around all across the city trying to put the city of Portland, on martial law or anything like that, like on long-term lockdown or anything. I'm sure the federal government would want to see that. I'm sure a lot of people who side with the Trump administration on things, they would probably agree to see that too. I would kind of push back against that. Look, if Portland wants this lawlessness to go on in their city, hey, as long as it doesn't encroach into my personal life, if that's what they want, that's what they voted for. What are you going to do? Other than the whole illegal immigrant thing, that has to be taken care of, to say the least. That's what I believe. I think that's something that should not exist in our country, sanctuary states or sanctuary cities, just because they're just going to pile up countless numbers of illegal immigrants in those states. And I guess you could make the same argument. Well, they voted for it. If they're piling up in those states and they're turning those states into third world hellholes. But the problem is with federal funding, and there's just, it pretty much drags all the other states into the problem if it persists. Anyway. All right, so I had to pause the video for a minute. It started freaking pouring down rain like crazy. I had my windows down outside, so I had to run out there and roll up my windows and dry off the inside of my car. Oh, man. All right, so I think I got through with that, I believe. I don't know. I had to take like a 20-minute break. Okay, so this one from Reuters. Newsom says he will sue the Trump administration for sending the National Guard to Oregon. I don't believe I went over this yet. Let's see, from today. Today's the 5th, right? Yeah, it's the 5th. Oh no, Reuters, you assholes. What the fuck? I don't remember them paywalling me in the past. Let me do this then. Let me do what I typically do. See if this plan B plan will work. You gonna let me? You gonna let me in, Reuters? You gonna let me? In Washington, Gavin Newsom said he's gonna take the Trump administration to court over the deployment of 300 California National Guard to Oregon. Quote, after a federal court blocked his attempt to federalize the Oregon National Guard, Donald Trump is deploying 300 California National Guard personnel into Oregon, Newsom said on X. They are on their way there now. Newsom's post followed a ruling by a federal judge late on Saturday that blocked Trump from deploying just 200 National Guard troops to Portland. Not sure why he's bringing in 300. Maybe, I don't know, maybe California's National Guard might be a little more beta than the Oregon National Guard, so they might need an extra 100 to kind of make up for it. Or maybe because it is California, maybe the majority of the National Guard are women or transgender or something like that. So they might have to have a higher amount of guards in California just because of, it's just a mixed bag of fun when it comes to California. At least in Oregon, more or less, you should be getting, tough guys for the most part when you're getting the Oregon National Guard. But what the fuck do I know? I'm just making all this shit up. I don't even really know what the hell. Anyway, Newsom's post following a ruling by a federal judge late on Saturday temporarily blocked Trump from deploying 200 National Guard. Nothing really new. That's it. Yeah, he's taking National Guard's troops. Hey, that worked, by the way. The whole paywall shenanigans that Reuters is involved with. Just open up a private browser. There you go. You'll get right in. So I'll link it in the description if you want to read the rest of it, although I think we pretty much covered it. All right, so we got those 3 done. Let's take a look at this video from Homeland Security. President Trump and Secretary Newsom are restoring law and order in Portland. No more chaos, no more anarchy. If you lay hands on an officer, you will be arrested. Law and order will win the day. I somehow doubt it. I seriously have my doubts. I was watching some of the live footage last night, and yes, the federal troops came out. Well, I don't know if they're actual troops, but they were federal agents. They came out. They were wearing exactly what they're wearing in this image. It was after dark. They were deploying this green-colored tear gas, and they did walk beyond the property line. They were actually walking down the street, the federal agents, trying to push back all the protesters. They pushed them back like what? Like maybe a tenth of a mile. They didn't really push them back that far. They just pushed them down the street. Just walked them down the street, really. And they stood on a line for about 10, 20 minutes. Then they tossed some flashbangs and some tear gas. The crowd dispersed. The federal agents went back to this ICE building, and then they closed the gate behind them, and then all the protesters just showed right back up here to the front again. Like, they literally didn't really do it. I didn't see them arrest anybody. or anything like that. Yes, if they lay a finger on any of these agents, yes, arrest them. For fuck's sakes, arrest them. And if they're blocking the road, if they're, I mean, I've said this so many times already in my recent videos. If they're blocking the driveway, if they're blocking or if they're obstructing the official duties of any of these agents, they have got to immediately arrest every single one of them, throw them in jail, get them in front of a judge. They could be sentenced to up to 8 years in prison for obstructing federal officers. All's I'm saying. I mean, yeah, they keep saying they're restoring law and order, but if they're not assaulting officers, what exactly can you do? I don't know. Let's take a look at this. See what we got. So they are out there during the day. And you see, like, if you notice, a lot of people, they're not wearing all black. It's not solid Antifa, even though there might be a few Antifa people out here and there. However, it's been said, and it seems to be fairly well known, that the majority of Antifa, they come out at night. They like to hide under the cover of darkness, and they come out and they cause their mayhem, and they just, run away. Off to jail. All right, I don't know if this was today or not. This might have been today. October 4th. Okay, so yesterday. So they posted this yesterday at 5:20 in the afternoon, so may have happened in the late morning hours. Let's see. Homeland Security don't want to end up arrested like this anarchist clown, do you? Keep your hands off our law enforcement officers. Yeah, if you assault a federal officer, you can be facing up to 20 years in prison. I'm sure he won't get that much, but you can face up to that amount, especially if you have a history. Well, he gets to lose some weight now that he's going to jail. Gets to eat, I don't know, bread, water, grits. That's about it. A lot of grits. Well, I don't know about up there. Here in Florida, I'm sure we get a lot of grits here, but I don't know. What would I know? I haven't been to jail. Knock on wood. Homeland Security, more arrest of anarchists. There is no tolerance for violence against our law enforcement under Secretary Newsom. It's hard to tell if it's body cam footage or if it's just some journalist that's just trying to get into the middle of the action. All right, this comes from 8 hours ago. Same thing, Homeland Security. The attack yesterday in Chicago underscores the dangers law enforcement officers face every day as they remove criminal illegal aliens from American neighborhoods. And she's talking about the 10 vehicles that blocked agents from being able to do their official duties. And one of their vehicles was hit by some crazed-ass woman who ended up having a handgun in her possession, and she got shot by the federal agents. The violence and dehumanization of these men and women who are simply enforcing the law must stop. We are praying for our law enforcement and their families.
Well, we had a really strange incident yesterday where we had a caravan of 10 different vehicles that were following our Border Patrol agents and officers that were out there on the streets of Chicago.
Not outright
and
harassment.
They had followed them and gotten them cornered,
and stalking.
pinned them down. And then our agents, when getting out of their cars, they tried to run them over.
Yeah, like how are they not going to get just absolutely bombarded with charges? With like I said, with stalking, with harassment, with I'm sure that they could stack all kinds of charges on them if they were doing just that. A caravan of 10 vehicles that were following federal agents around, and then they tried to hit a couple of them with their vehicles, attempted assault with a deadly weapon or something like that.
And had semi-automatic handguns on them to where our agents...
Well, to be fair, I think every handgun's a semi-automatic. I don't know why they keep saying that, semi-automatic. I mean, like, just to try to get through to the leftists, I guess. Just because they're so used to hearing semi-automatic, maybe they just, in their brain, just assault rifle clicks in their head, even though she said handgun.
had to protect themselves, and shots were fired, and an individual ended up in the hospital that was attacking these officers. Very dangerous situation. And then in that situation as well,
now she's cuffed to her hospital bed.
This individual had threatened them previously and had told them that they all needed to go down and shouted expletives at them. So our intelligence indicates that these people are organized. They're getting more and more people on their team as far as attacking officers, and they're making plans to ambush them and to kill them. We have specific officers and agents that have bounties that have been put out on their heads. It's been $2,000 to kidnap them, $10,000 to kill them. They've released their pictures. They've sent them between their networks, and it's an extremely dangerous situation and unprecedented. So we've put protective detail around those individuals, changed some of our operations to keep our officers safe.
Well, and there you go. So if which I'm assuming she can prove that, being a federal official, being a secretary of a department, if that ever goes to the courts with regard to forcing agents to take off their masks, which I don't think it will. If anything, it would certainly have to be on the federal level, because these are federal agents. I mean, state level, local level judges, they can't do that. I mean, just like California with Gavin Newsome signing that governor's executive order in California, that it's not worth the paper it's printed on, because you can't force federal agents to remove their masks. And even if it was to go up to the federal court, if she takes that evidence in there and proves that there are cartels that have that they've taken hits out on these agents because they've been successfully able to identify them without their masks on, that should make the strongest case of any cases that they should all keep their masks on.
But make no mistake, this isn't just about, protesting free speech, or that they don't like that people out here are upholding the law of our country.
No, this is all fuck the police. That's what all this is.
And saying, kill these people
and burn the system
this much
down.
Money to do it.
That's all about. That's all they care about, man. They just want to burn the system down. Like, no, virtually nothing has changed since 2020. That was their intention back then. It wasn't about, protesting George Floyd. It was about burning everything down. Homeland Security, that mayor has a less than 6% approval rating in Chicago. There was some pushback in the comments about that. Apparently somebody asked Grok, and the answer that Grok gave was a 26% approval. So I don't know if that might have just been a typo. Even when I read that, I was like, wait a minute, 6% approval? Well, that would seem to suggest that on the local level in deep blue cities, that they have got to be absolutely rigging their elections if they're getting that low of an approval rating, but somehow still winning the majority in their local cities. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. Let me just take a quick look. I know somebody down here made a mention of that. Chicago mayor's a failure. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson are controlled by the cartel. This is why they don't want ICE in Chicago. I mean, it would not surprise me for a second if they're taking lots of money from the cartels. Would not surprise me at all. How many Illinois governors have been sentenced to prison in the last couple of decades? Isn't it like 3? like weren't there multiple Illinois governors that have been sentenced to prison for like corruption charges or something? I'm not seeing it, but I know I saw that earlier. Anyway, here, let's see what she has to say.
Well, let's remember that mayor has a less than 6% approval
rating.
Okay,
no typo. She said it.
In Chicago. So the people who live there, less than 6%, think he might be doing somewhat of a good job. Overwhelmingly.
Then why wouldn't they do what they do in California? They've got those referendums to throw out that elected official before his term is due to expire. Why wouldn't they just do that if he's got such an abysmal approval rating? That definitely seems to suggest that he's probably getting paid off by the cartels or something.
That man is a failure. He's a failure for his people and hasn't stood up for the victims of the
Basically,
crimes
all
that have
Democrats
happened in
are.
his city.
Who are we kidding?
We're going to keep doing our work. Every day when we're there doing our operations, when I'm there with them, people on the streets are clapping as we do our work. They're clapping as these officers are arresting these bad criminals. And out of the 12 that we arrested during the short period of time I was there, 6 of them had criminal records in their backgrounds that the state had arrested them and just turned them loose on the street again.
Dude,
for
that
assault,
quality, man.
for weapons possession, for robbery. Those individuals now are off the streets thanks to President Trump, not thanks to that mayor who's delusional at best. Well, let's...
All right. Let's head down to the next one. I think I got another one. Wait, what did I say here? If his approval ratings are that abysmal, I have to question whether they rigged the election outright and how often election rigging is really happening in the deep blue areas. Like I said, man, 6%. Seriously. All right. I think that, yeah, this is the last one that I got. So from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Portland, refuse to walk? We'll give you a ride.
They see me rolling.
All right, hold on. I got to mute that because they're going to block my video in several countries. That happened when I played that Macarena song. It ended up blocking my video in several countries. And so sorry, I got to do it. But I think everybody knows the Riding Dirty song by now. Anyway, it's kind of pointless anyway. They're being they're being wheeled on a cart into the facility because he refused to walk. So he or she, I don't even know. Could go either way. So Immigration Customs Enforcement, not sure what's going on their profile. Anything new? 15 minutes ago. Meager Portland law enforcement support after 100 nights of violent demonstrations by agitators at ICE office is too little too late. It wasn't until President Trump actually showed the strength to say, we're going to protect our ICE agents, we're going to send in the National Guard, and all of a sudden, we start seeing local support. Yeah, fancy that, man. Isn't that weird?
Well, from Portland to Chicago, ICE just released new drone footage. Look at this. This depicts an agitator trying to obstruct ICE operations last week.
20 years.
You see the individual
throw him in prison for 20 fucking years.
Gas canister in the direction of federal agents.
Look at this, man. Look at this. So this is an ICE vehicle, unmarked. I'm assuming, because look, that looks like the gate right here. I mean, you can see the tensioners, the springs or whatever that pull the gate open. You know, whatever. So they're trying to leave the facility. Every one of these people, those are not peaceful protesters. Peaceful protesters would be standing on the side, even though I would say legally they can't even stand in the grass there because I'm sure that's federal property. They can maybe stand on the sidewalk over here to the side. But you cannot be obstructing the daily duties of enforcement officers, federal enforcement officers. You cannot obstruct them in any way, shape, or form. If you do, for the millionth time, it comes with up to an 8-year prison sentence for simple obstruction. And does it look like they're obstructing? All these people, it's like 100 people standing in front of this vehicle trying to prevent it from leaving. How is that a peaceful protest? That's not peaceful. That is obstruction. They are all breaking the law, and I would say just based off this drone footage alone, they should get facial recognition of every single one of them and go hunt them down and throw all of them in jail. And look, they said that they're deploying all these troops. They're deploying reinforcements. They're even sending DEA agents down there for crying out loud to try to do more law enforcement assistance. So with that being said, if the Trump administration's sending hundreds of agents down to this area, why can't they arrest every fucking last one of them standing in front of this vehicle? Every single one of them should be arrested. And therefore, they'll be sent in front of a federal judge and not a local judge, because the local judges just cut them loose the same day, and they'll be back out there 3 hours later doing the same bullshit over and over and over again. And I'm sure the judges locally, they'll just drop the charges completely, so they don't even have to worry about coming back again. But perhaps on the federal level, maybe they might actually get some consequences for their actions of obvious obstruction here.
And in another video, a separate agitator violently grabs the mask off of an ICE officer. ICE, in fact, says that the individual in question actually pulled the hair out of his beard. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons with me now.
And she wasn't
Director
arrested,
Lyons,
I'm sure.
I mean, I'm looking at this, and I hear from Chicago officials that you all are militarizing the city. But based on this new footage that just came out today, it seems like you're just
I think for the most part, they're just sitting on federal property.
Yeah, Kaylee, it's bad. You know, and the bad thing is we've asked for help. We've asked for help from the Broadview Police Department. We've asked for help from the Illinois State Police, and no one's come to our aid, right? So we have to take it upon ourselves.
Yeah, you know what? I would send them a letter every single day requesting assistance. Just send the same letter day after day after day. Do it in email, put it in standard mail, even certified mail. Mail it certified, a letter from your agency requesting assistance from their department. That way, if or when all of this gets dragged into court in the future, you can at least say, look, 167 times we have requested their support, and not a fucking single time did they answer our calls for assistance. So what would you have us do, Your Honor? Of course we had to militarize the area because we were asking for local law enforcement over and over and over, week after week after week, and there was absolutely no response whatsoever. So what else are we going to do besides have to pull in the military?
To make sure our men and women are safe and to make sure we can still do our mission. And just that video alone, you see it. Those people aren't exercising their First Amendment. They are out there.
They're obstructing.
Like you said, throwing tear tear gas grenades. They're coming out there.
See, even he is missing the fucking mark, man. They're all missing the point. They're standing in front of the vehicles. That is obstruction. They're obstructing the daily duties of the officers. 8 years. Comes with 8 years.
Shields, bats, gas masks. They're ready to do battle.
I mean, that's even worse. That's 20
really,
years if they're
impeding law
using
enforcement
shields and
they're
bats and
threatening ICE
shit.
agents, and it has to stop.
You know, I just spoke with Nick Storter, and that's another ICE facility out there in Portland. And it was described that there's a bubble around the ICE facility. And there's 2 liaison officers on either side, and the police don't go in the bubble. Explain to our viewers what ICE is and is not allowed to do. It's not their job to go and break up fisticuffs or assaults or brawls. What can they legally do inside that bubble without the help of police?
You know, what we're doing right now, Kaylee, is protecting that building, right? So you've heard them talk about we're under siege over 100 days, right? You know, I was there when they had the assaults and the siege of the building back in 2022 when we totally lost that building to Antifa. So we can't even go do our mission.
Holy shit, that really happened?
Is protecting that perimeter, protecting the building, protecting the people inside, just so people don't...
Dude, if that's true, if they actually took over the building, if they physically stormed the building and took it over, how would that not in and of itself be... Well, of course, it was under Biden at the time. But couldn't they just use that one single example to justify them declaring them as a terrorist organization?
Take it over like they did in the past. You know, ICE officers and agents have gone out and helped actually protesters that have been assaulted by their own protesters, right? We've rendered medical aid.
Oh, yeah, Antifa does that too.
We've helped people that were getting attacked by these crazy leftists that come out there every night. But we can't even go out and do our law enforcement mission because we have to hold that building. And the field office directors, right?
Yeah, see, they're not on federal property there. They're running down the fucking street.
Police show up. And unfortunately, Nick was a
Which
victim
they
of
might be
that.
chasing after someone who assaulted him.
It wasn't until President Trump actually showed the strength to say, hey, we're going to take back the, and protect our ICE agents. We're going to send a National Guard. Did all of a sudden we start seeing local support. But that's what we needed all along. It was local support to make sure we can do our law enforcement mission. And we're just not getting it.
Director Lyons, I do want to ask you about this story. We reported it first here last week. And this is the Iowa superintendent of Iowa's district, the largest school district in Iowa, was found to be in the country illegally with a final removal notice. And not just a criminal record. We learned yesterday, based on DHS documents, he had a long criminal record. Take a look at this. You see all of these degrees, charges here, 3rd degree unauthorized use of a vehicle, reckless driving, the list goes on. How does a guy with all these charges become the head of Iowa's biggest school district?
You know, and that's the scary part, right, is the fact that you see that.
Well, it was that consulting group. It was the consulting group that the Iowa school district hired, which kind of begs the question, why would you have to hire a consulting firm to hire your superintendent? What the hell does the school board do all day? Shouldn't they be tasked with doing that? Don't they have the credentials and the expertise to be able to find a superintendent that they can interview and make their superintendent? I don't understand that, why they would have to hire it. They're called JG Consulting. It's some firm that the Des Moines Public School District hired to go find a superintendent on their behalf. And if I'm living in Iowa, I would be asking, how much money in my taxpayer dollars are you spending on this consulting firm to go out and find somebody that you should be doing by yourself anyway? I don't really understand that at all.
In 1994, gets arrested for narcotics, leaves, comes back. He was denied a green card 4 times, and then ordered lawfully
I didn't know about all that.
removed by a judge. Yet he still led one of the largest school districts in the country. He was carrying a loaded firearm. He fled from police. So is this the person you want running a school district, being around your children? And what's even worse, Kaylee, is the people of Des Moines came and protested the ICE office in the federal building for arresting this guy. This guy
I'm
is
sure.
someone we want. This is the people that Secretary Newsom and
They're
President
brain-dead
Trump
lunatics,
have pledged
man.
to get out of our country.
They've been
And he was leading
indoctrinated.
one of our
They're in the
largest
cult.
schools. It's a failure on the system, and it just shows that there are so many people against the law enforcement mission of ICE.
Oh, and this dude ain't the only one. You know there's other people out there.
That's involved.
They're in these positions of power, especially in the public school system across the country, and we don't even know who they are at this time. But I'm sure they're in the public school system. I'm sure there's probably at least a few that are perhaps even, if you have kids, possibly even in your children's school district.
involved in our school districts.
And he had multiple fake degrees. You'd think the school district would do a reference check or a criminal background.
You would think.
Unbelievable.
But
Acting
nope.
ICE Director Todd Lyons, thank you.
Which, of course, they failed to mention that it wasn't the school district who hired this individual. Well, they signed off on it, but it was this JG consulting firm that actually was supposed to do all the background shit, and they didn't. So the Des Moines Public School District, they are now filing a lawsuit against JG Consulting, suing them for hiring him for not doing a background check, and they're also suing them for what is it, like public image damage or whatever. I don't remember what the actual term is, but because this makes the school district look incredibly bad because they've been getting a lot of national press lately, and it does make them look bad. And they're trying to push all the blame over to some consulting firm, which I'm not even 100% sure if this consulting firm even exists. Maybe they're just trying to create that and just to try to push a narrative that, oh no, it wasn't our fault. We weren't the ones who actually did it. So anyway, let's see if they got anything else on here. So this is from ICE from an hour ago. ICE Chicago apprehended Austrian criminal alien Stefan Sizivi, a convicted child sex offender with decades-long criminal record that includes convictions for sex assault of a family member under the age of 6, aggravated criminal sex assault with force involving a child under 13, and aggravated criminal sex abuse involving a child under the age of 9. I don't know if all three of those charges are pertaining to the same individual. Probably not. When you see the protesters and self-proclaimed Antifa agitators in Chicago violently demanding that we free detainees, this is who they're defending. Yeah, like I said, that's what they claim that they're going after right now. They're not going after your everyday illegal immigrants that have snuck in, the mom and pop illegal immigrants. They're going after the ones that have actual criminal records first. Moving on, 2 hours ago, ICE Deputy Director Madison Sheehan not answering a federal law enforcement agency's call for backup in your own city or township is not only wrong, it's a dereliction of duty. Yeah, I'm assuming that local police, they probably take an oath. Not sure if it's to the Constitution or what it might be, but I'm sure they take an oath that probably, gives them, the moral obligation, at the very least, to help out federal law enforcement. I mean, after all, we're all supposed to be in this together. Y'all are supposed to be taking care of all this shit on your own. You're not even supposed to even really have the government's eyes on you at all. The federal government is supposed to be taking care of business by yourself. Thank you for standing with us, GLFOP. Who is this? Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. What the hell? Oh, shit. Now I fucking lost it. Damn it. Let's see if I can get back to it. Oh, okay. Never mind. It looked like I just scrolled down. GLFOP, number one voice of America's law enforcement officers, the oldest and largest police union in the U.S. Okay, the Fraternal Order of Police. Okay, got it. And your support of law and order. Okay. Patrick Yoas, National President of Fraternal Order of Police, and Chris Southwood, President of Illinois State FOP Lodge, were shocked and appalled at reports coming out of Chicago that commanding officers barred local law enforcement from assisting immigration and customs enforcement agents while they were surrounded by a group of protesters. Yeah, I don't know if the National Fraternal Order of Police, I don't know if they've got any power to enforce anything. Probably not. I don't know if they have the ability because they're essentially a union, though, aren't they? I think they're some sort of a union. I don't know if they've got the ability to maybe fire anybody who might be involved with this. Not exactly sure about that. I mean, I suppose I could read the letter, but it's kind of a long letter. But here, let me just see here at the end. No, they're just saying police officers need to band together, need to protect our brothers and sisters, things like that. It doesn't look like it says anything like we're taking action by doing A, B, and C. So, let's see. 4 hours ago, ICE is in Memphis targeting criminal illegal aliens alongside our Memphis Safe Task Force partners at a time when the city is experiencing the highest violent crime in the nation. So, looks like one of these like movie trailer style videos that I've played before. I don't know if we have any sound. Yeah, it looks like there's sound. It's very quiet. There's been 158 murders in Memphis so far this year. Memphis, Tennessee. Isn't that where Beale Street Fest is? Isn't that what it is? Beale Street? I don't know. I've never been to Memphis. Yeah, the feds, they're arresting a lot of them. They've already arrested over 300 criminals already. Just the feds, since they've been in Memphis. Probably a little bit over a week at this point. Angel Galindo Viveros, criminal illegal from Mexico, convicted in December of 2006 of armed carjacking and robbery. He was sentenced to 6 and 5 years, respectively. Yep, and he snuck into the country again, or he was given a free pass by the Biden administration, or maybe under the cover of darkness, he was flown in with thousands of others into our airports around the country, where he was just ushered right in. Free ticket into the U.S. All right, let's see if I can find anything else. Secretary Christine Noem. Probably going to have basically the same info that the other ones, or that the other posts that I've already been over. Sanctuary politicians like Pritzker have not only turned over their states to violent illegal aliens, they're also actively working against law enforcement in support of lawless anarchists. DHS under Trump is deploying a whole-of-government approach to restore law and order in America's cities. Just sounds like, you know, your typical political, type of commercial style video, but I'll play it.
You know, I'm shocked by Governor Pritzker and his willingness to let
maybe not. Seems like an interview, right?
Run his state and have a free-for-all against the people that live in there without making it safe for families. And that's what has been the most shocking to me, is to see these local governors and mayors not stand up for law and order. That we will go into Chicago,
it's all
we will
about
go
the
into
cult,
Portland,
man.
and we'll make sure we have the backs
They're all
of
in
our
this,
law enforcement. And that's what the Department of War is
nihilistic
providing
religion
for us. When we go out
that
and
we
do
call the Democratic Party now.
The local law enforcement are told to stand down, that they can't be there for us, it's extremely dangerous for these ICE officers, for these CBP agents that are out there trying to help go after these dangerous criminals. So we will use President Trump's methods and his abilities to deploy a whole-of-government approach, which means the Department of War will come in and help provide that security so we can continue to do our work.
And look, they've already paraded victims of these criminal illegals in front of the cameras, and they've told their stories. They've shown up in courtrooms, and they've shown up for the news, and they've talked about how, like, they've lost a relative, or they've lost a child, or somebody was kidnapped, or they were the victim of like a carjacking or something. Like, plenty of these victims have come forward and said that they were terrorized by criminal illegal immigrants in these cities, and the city just let them go. No bail or no cash bail or whatever the case, and they just let them out, and then they just victimize another person, and the same cycle repeats over and over again. So they clearly don't give a shit about everyday Americans living in these cities. They really don't. They don't care. Their political endeavors, their political party means more to them than anything. Nothing means more to them than power. That's it. Gangs, cartel members, and known terrorist organizations have placed bounties. Okay, I already did that one. So I don't think I went through Homeland Security yet, did I? I did a few from Homeland Security. 14 minutes ago, same day, another vehicular assault on law enforcement. The violence is so rampant in Illinois that law enforcement faced 2 back-to-back vehicular assaults on the same day. The Trump administration is rapidly ramping up law enforcement and will put an end to the violence. Tricia McLaughlin, this footage is not from the attack in Chicago involving the 10-car caravan blockading our law enforcement, not involving La Maggie. This is from another vehicular assault later that day in Chicago where an individual rammed an ICE-Gov vehicle. This violence is rampant. J.B. Pritzker, fat asshole. So, from Kim Katie USA, this is the video where Miramar Martinez, La Maggie, rammed a white DHS vehicle who had their emergency lights on. Okay, so Tricia McLaughlin is saying that is not who this is. This is a completely different incident that just so happened to occur on the same day against federal agents. Let's check this out. Take a look. There's sound, but it's really quiet. All right, right, let me kill my background music. Yeah, it's weird. It's like real quiet piano music. Oh, yeah, you see it there? Holy shit. What the fuck? Somebody did that too. Uh-oh. Somebody, that was a federal... Yeah, what? Oh, shit, dude. Wow. That's fucked up, man. Oh, look, yep, they're taking off too. What the fuck? Dude, how is this not all over social media? I'm just now seeing this. And you know what? They might hit this person with assault with a deadly weapon because like one of those vehicles had like, it looked like 6 or 7 agents inside one vehicle. They might give her 6, 7 different counts of assault with a deadly weapon against each individual agent. Oh man, if that's the case, she is like, I don't like septupled fucked. Or whatever the hell. These people are fucking psychotic. So after you get out of prison in like 27 years, you gonna say to yourself that it was worth it? No. She's probably crying right now. Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Well, you did it. Actions have consequences. A lot of these modern, you know, the millennials and Gen Z, they seem to believe that they can live a life without accountability, life without consequences. But nope, that ain't the case. So that was 8 hours ago. So that was earlier this morning when that was posted, at least. I'm assuming that, well, yeah, it did happen yesterday because that 10 vehicle bullshit happened yesterday. So 6 hours ago. Okay, God bless ICE. It looks like a legit image. I know sometimes, you know, people like to edit images, especially when it comes to holding up signs to make it look like something else. But I don't know. She's got her hand in front of it. It seems legit. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm chapter 28, verse 7. Love God, save America. God willing. So we already got that one. Okay, yeah, it looks like I'm pretty much up to speed as to what's going on with the whole immigration enforcement front. So that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. See you later.